What's going on, YouTube? Culturedog Sam Hatch back here with another video, taking a little bit of a break in between my Laserdisc unwrapping videos and my Blu-ray collection videos to talk about collecting in general and to announce a bit of a contest I'm running with my radio show, which I've talked about before, Culture Dogs. And I do have a couple of things coming up shortly, some more collection videos, etc., some media ads and all sorts of stuff like that. And what have you. And if I'm a little bit haggard and raspy today, it's because I played a show last night, and it was a rather late night, of course, loaded with milkshakes and shenanigans. So many apologies. And also apologies if you hear any of the A-hole convention going on next door. It's a rather nice day out. The A-hole convention is raging, and I'm going to try and do my best to just drop the bass out of this video altogether, and otherwise I'll be sitting here forever. Anyways, I just wanted to mention Ultra DTA had reached out recently with a cool question about collecting in general. I was talking about just finding cool things at thrift stores and stuff like that, and finding that there was not enough time in the day to actually watch all this stuff, and how he unloaded a lot of things from his collection over time. I was wondering if I end up doing the same thing and what have you. And there's always that fine line between collecting and hoarding, essentially. And I definitely was not a constant seller. I had a lot of friends that would load up on stuff, be it music or movies or whatever like that. And then if times got tough or whatever, they'd sell off all their stuff to the store. And then they'd go back a month later and buy it all back because they regretted it. So that was never my modus operandi. I mean, from a young age, I was really into music, really into movies, and I just, picked up stuff I loved and never, ever had an intention on selling any of it off. And even if it was a case where I bought something that I really wasn't that into or whatever, I figured if I listened to it enough times or I watched it enough times, I would eventually find appreciation for it, which sometimes was the case, and sometimes stuff just sat on my shelf. So now I tend to take a little bit of a harder look at that stuff in my collection, and I certainly have an eye towards that stuff when I'm looking to pick up new things. I don't have any hard and fast rules for collecting in general. I basically have to be able to watch it or listen to it. That's a rule. So that's why I don't collect PAL Laserdiscs from overseas, because I don't have a PAL player. I do have a PAL DVD player, so I will watch those. But I definitely have a rule against just having things just to have them. There's a couple things where there's like a cool cover or something like that. So there's always that exception that breaks the rule. But I mean, I recently saw a post on the Laserdisc Forever page. A guy had picked up a lot of late release Japanese titles that were really, really expensive, and a lot of them were sealed, and someone's like, "Oh, are you going to open them up?" And he's like, "Nah, I'm just going to let them sit around." And I was like, So that's one of my rules too. Like I'm not going to collect sealed items and just keep them for the sake of sealing. A lot of that's stemming from a general dislike for speculators and seeing what that did to the comic industry and like just the toy industry in general, and just a lot of people collecting things not because they loved them and they wanted to experience them, because they were looking at them either as just a pure investment or looking at them to just make a lot of coin on and exploit the fan base, that sort of thing. I have very, very limited patience for that stuff. So I kind of have knee-jerk reactions when I see that online, so I apologize if I come off a little intense at times to people that are like, yeah, I'm not going to unseal that. I'm just going to let it sit around and gather dust. Basically, I'm not the old Knight Templar from Raiders of the Lost Ark or from Indiana Jones: The Last Crusade. I'm going to enjoy. I'm going to sip the grail. I'm not going to sit in a dusty room and wait for the chosen one to show up and choose the grail. I'm going to experience it. So that's one of my rules, is that if I'm going to get something, I'm going to check it out. And even if I have multiple copies of the same thing, which we'll talk about briefly too, I always have a rule that I watch each and every one. So James Bond discs, per se. I've been buying a bunch of Japanese ones and American ones and pan and scan ones and letterbox ones. And even though I don't really like pan and scan titles on Laserdisc, I actually force myself to at least watch them once. just to justify the purchase in a way. But yeah, I don't tend to double and triple dip. I know, again, that's also a knee-jerk reaction coming out of the comic book scene in the late 80s, early 90s, especially when like the Todd McFarlane Spider-Man series started exploding. There was that mass manufactured cash in on collectors' mentalities that if you release 4 different variations of the covers or whatever, everyone will buy each and every one, and that's the variance is pretty much a standard of the industry nowadays. But that always kind of rubbed me the wrong way, that some guy would literally drop, and this McFarlane thing shot up in value quickly, so someone would drop $20 times 4 to literally buy the exact same interior comic over and over again. And that's still running rampant in the collector industry. Even with music and stuff, different pressings of the same thing. But home video now with steelbooks and different versions. I mean, I know people that have bought the Avengers Age of Ultron with different steelbooks featuring each characters and stuff. It's the exact same Blu-ray, exact same movie, whatever. And I just haven't been able to tap into that. Like, if I have the movie, I have the movie. And there's a couple times where there's a movie that I love, really dig. So say like Reservoir Dogs or whatever. And every time there's a new issue, I'll buy that. So I'll get the 15th anniversary one and the 20th or whatever, assuming that there's something inherently different, maybe some different extras, a new commentary track or something. If it's a case where the studio's just releasing the exact same product and just putting a new slipcover on it, I usually tend to stay away from that nowadays. So there are a couple titles where I'll do that, but still, those have their limits too. I remember Artisan released, I believe, 10th anniversary Reservoir Dogs set, and they each one had different slipcovers, one for each dog, Mr. Pink, Mr. White, Mr. Orange, etc. And I never bought each and every single one. So there are times when my collector's mentality will lean that way, like when collecting James Bond movies and things like that. And but I try and keep that in check. And also there's a lot of stuff I'm not actively looking for, but sometimes I'll receive in a lot and then find out I enjoy them. Like, I was never on the lookout for Encore Edition Laserdiscs. That was just completely not on my radar until I got a lot and had a couple. And sometimes when you just have the item in your hand, you would just have an instant respect for it and a newfound affinity for it. So there are the cases like that, even just CDs, artists I wasn't interested in, and movies wasn't interested in. But once you get them, you're like, all right, well, I was going to just give this away or resell it or something like that, but now I kind of want to hold on to it. So I do find myself occasionally in those scenarios. But overall, I never really sold stuff back until my kidney stone incident back in, was it 2010? Yeah, late 2010. I got hit with kidney stones, and it was pretty brutal. And it was right before I'd started working at my new job at the time, and so I didn't have insurance and all that stuff, and I got hit with a major bill. And I was actually forced, unfortunately, to take a look at my DVDs and CDs, and I culled a large portion of stuff, and a lot of it honestly was stuff I did not want to get rid of, unfortunately, but I knew there was a high resale, and I would actually earn a little bit more, because some DVDs, if you sell them back to places like FYE or whatever, you're going to get like a penny for each one, so it's really not worth it. So I sold a lot of Criterion stuff. It still guts me to this day. I offloaded my Akira Kurosawa collection and all sorts of stuff like that. And in fact, and there's a store I go into, and they routinely joke about how that was the best collection buy they ever had, and all the guys were excited about it, and how, my just minor offloading was bigger than most of the entire collections of other people that they bought. And so, yeah, so it was a sad time. It was the Trail of Tears. And so that doesn't really reflect the question that was posed, was, about titles that you're not that interested in, you don't cherish. So in that case, stuff that I really find that I'm not going to watch or really enjoy, I tend to donate that stuff, drop it off at Goodwill or something like that, or find somebody else who's into it and give it to them. Unless maybe it's something really valuable, but yeah, not much really is. So if something like that, I'm just not into it, I'll make a collection and donate it. But yeah, there's that issue of time that was brought up too. Ultra DTA brought up there's really not enough time, and you have to kind of sometimes take a hard look at what's in your collection and realize your mortality versus the immortality of your media, or potential immortality of it, and just think, really, how many times am I going to actually experience this product in my lifetime? So there's that balance between the coolness of a physical library versus its utility as a how much you're gonna use it per se. And there is something to be said for just having the option of using it. There is some value in that. I know nowadays it's incredibly devalued by most people because of streaming media and all that stuff. But I think people will start to value a physical library a little bit more once they start seeing the reality of streaming media, which is that the lie that everything will be available at any time at your beck and call. That's the future. That's not going to happen as long as rights are around. And look what's going on with Netflix right now. They're ditching catalogs. They ditched, I think, the Starz catalog. They're just going to be, all the streaming media places are going to start doing what pretty much any television station does. You start off with some strong original content or your strong original vision, and then you immediately jettison it and chase after the HBO or the MTV or whatever structure. So everyone's going to start chasing after exclusives and or their own original content. So that's it. That's pretty much the end of the dream, the bogus dream of Netflix, etc., as being your source, your Spotify-like source of everything. Spotify's about as close as it gets out there to something like that in reality existing. But for movies, it seems to be a little bit tougher. The rights are in flux constantly, and of course, this is talking legally. Illegally, whatever, the world is your oyster, etc. But as far as a legal streaming service where every movie ever made is available at your beck and call, that's not happening anytime in the near future. So in those regards, it's still valuable to me, at least, to have a physical library. And plus, that old joke that collectors judge other people, not by the content of the character, but the content of their libraries, either be physical book libraries or music libraries, vinyl, CD, or DVD and Blu-ray libraries. And as much as that's silly, it's also true. Like, the first thing I do when I go over somebody's house is I check out their DVDs or whatever, and I'm like, all right, they got Fight Club in there. All right, we could be friends. And that's true. I think I don't really think that carries over in the digital world. I've got a hard drive loaded with albums I don't think anybody cares about. I mean, there's no thought kind of put into it. You can have an obscure title or a quirky title, something eclectic, in your digital library, but it doesn't mean anything because of the immediacy and the lack of thought and care put into it. Whereas if you have something weird in your video or CD library, you had to actively pick that up, pay for it, think about it, add it to your collection, as opposed to just culling from endless pools of just instant information. It just says something about you more so than your playlist, quote unquote, or somebody was tripping through your external hard drive. And that's nobody's going to be tripping through your external hard drive trying to judge your collection habits. But yeah, I don't think digital collections mean as much to either the collectors or anybody else, obviously. So that's kind of where I stand on that. I try and justify what I buy. I try and watch and listen to everything that I buy, eventually at least. And I do go through it and look at things and see if I actually value them, see if I'm ever going to really watch them again. And if the answer is no, I'll donate them. So that was the long answer to a very short question, but thanks to Ultra DTA for writing that in. But anyways, to the point of the video, the ultimate point of the video, I am doing a giveaway contest for my radio show, Culturedogs, which is on in Connecticut on Sunday nights. So tonight at 8 o'clock on Eastern Standard Time, and WWUH.org, you can listen to the show. But we are giving away 3 Blu-ray DVD combo packs for Bridge of Spies, the new Steven Spielberg film. So If you are interested in being a winner of said giveaway, just fire an email over to my email at samhatch@culturedogs.org, and just let me know what your first Steven Spielberg film you ever saw was. And if you haven't seen a Steven Spielberg film to date, just put that. And then I'll collect all the responses and then randomly select the 3 winners on Tuesday, February 2nd. So the end of Tuesday, February 2nd, will be the wrap-up. And then I'll get in touch with everybody and get your shipping information and all that stuff, and get your Blu-ray, DVD, digital combo packs out to you. So hopefully you guys are into Bridge of Spies, or will be into Bridge of Spies when you check it out. And don't worry, I do have I was going to do the 1,000 subs contest, and I was waiting for my extra copy of Pulp Fiction. I was kind of playing the field with this Laserdisc lot that I recently showed off, and waiting for it to kind of get into my price point that I was looking to strike on. And so waiting to get that Pulp Fiction box, because I thought that would be a really cool thing to do a giveaway on. My 1,000 subs mark kind of flew by. So I'm going to do, when the channel hits 100,000 views, which is right around the corner, I'll do a contest, and we'll talk Pulp Fiction then. So anyways, cheers everybody. Hope you have fun checking out these videos, and thanks for all the comments I've been getting lately. It's always fun talking with everybody on the channels down below. And again, drop some comments, we'll talk. And then, yeah, fire off an email to samhatch@culturedogs.org. Let me know what your first Steven Spielberg film was that you ever saw, and you'll be entered into the contest for the Bridge of Spies Blu-ray DVD digital combo pack. So cheers everybody.